But many who are first will be last, and the last will be first. As Christians, there is one thing we should be cautious of, most especially those of us who are so into evangelization, into bringing other people into the vineyard of God, converting people, that we do not become gatekeepers and close the door before us, bringing people in, but then we become stuck behind the door at the end of the day. Saint Bernard of Clairvaux is a typical example of he who left everything to follow Christ. He followed the cross, took up his cross and followed Christ. He was the son of the Count of Fontaine in Dijon. But then he left everything. He had the opportunity to serve in the court of the king, to be famous in the world in that aspect. But then he left everything because he had heard a voice that told him, "Come to me, all you who are wearied, and I will give you rest. Bear my yoke, and I shall give you rest." So he left everything. He left his father and went to the Abbey of Citeaux, which had problems. It was on the verge of closure. But the abbot, Stephen Hardin, had a hope. And he had prayed and asked a monk who was dying on his bed that, "Please pray that this monastery do not close." And lo and behold, when the monk died, the abbot peeped out into his window and saw Bernard with 30 others with him coming to the monastery. These were his brothers, some friends. This is exactly what Jesus is telling us to do. Leave it all. Leave everything. There is too much detachment in the world now. We have been engrossed in so many worldly pleasures. But are we ready to leave them all to follow Christ? Are we ready to leave our wills behind, our desires behind, to follow Christ? Because it has got a promise. He's promising us that we will receive all that we are leaving to follow him 100-fold. Usually in the religious life and the priestly life, you get this example, most especially those of us who live in community, that you leave family and home, but then you enter into a community that you find a lot of brothers with you. That is the earthly pleasures of the promise of what Christ is promising his disciples here. And there is more in the eternal life, because that is also a promise that you will receive eternal life. Today we celebrate Bernard of Clairvaux. He's got eternal life because we still celebrate him. Since the 11th century up to 21st century, we still celebrate him. And that is the eternal life Christ is talking about here. Are we ready for that? For men, this is impossible, but for God, all things are possible.